Have you ever felt that deep, just soul-level exhaustion? That feeling where you're running on absolute fumes, but you're still telling yourself you haven't really earned the right to stop? Well, if that sounds familiar, this one's for you. We're going to get into some raw, unfiltered truths from women who have been right there. Okay, let's do this.
This right here, this is the question, isn't it? It's that quiet little voice in the back of our heads, that internal gatekeeper that's always measuring our own suffering to see if it's even valid. But what if asking the question is the only clue you really need?
And boom, there it is. This is basically your permission slip. According to integrative healer Susanna Fatima, people who aren't burned out, they're not even asking this question. The takeaway is so simple. If this thought has even flickered across your mind, you're already there. You deserve the support. So to really get this, we have to go past all the clinical definitions and talk about what it actually feels like in a human body. Let's dive into the real lived experiences shared in these stories. You know, what's so interesting here is that burnout isn't just one thing. Jen Brockman talks about experiencing it in two totally different ways. First, there was the explosion, feeling like a nervous breakdown with these scary, over-the-top emotions. But later, it was an implosion, a slow, quiet, inward collapse where her body and emotions just kind of shut down. It's not always loud. And this is how it shows up, physically and mentally. It's not just a mood, it's a full body state. I mean, listen to these descriptions. Jen called it being a hollow shell of a human. Susanna felt like her brain had dozens of frozen tabs open. It's that constant state of high alert, that mental fog, and an exhaustion so deep it feels like your actual soul is tired. Okay, so even when we feel all of this, what is it that stops us from reaching out? So often, it's this huge mental barrier, this sneaky belief that our struggle just isn't serious enough to count. Man, this quote just gets right to the heart of it. That feeling of not being enough isn't a sign to just push harder. No, it's the very thing that lets burnout spiral out of control. It's that voice telling you to ignore the smoke alarm until the whole house is on fire. And this is what that voice sounds like, right? This was literally Susanna Fatima's own inner critic when she was dealing with this deep exhaustion on top of a physical disability. It's a voice that dismisses, that doesn't have compassion. It tells you your struggle is some kind of personal failure, not that the system has overloaded you. So if the problem is overload, what's the solution? Well, it's not about magically finding more energy. It's about protecting the energy you actually have. And that brings us to boundaries, not as some nice little suggestion, but as a non-negotiable tool for survival. This is such a powerful way to reframe it. Just think about that for a second. Burnout isn't your body failing you. It's your body setting the ultimate boundary for you. It's the complete system shutdown that happens when all those smaller, gentler signals for no and that's enough have been ignored for way too long. And look, boundaries don't have to be these huge, complicated manifestos. After her own burnout, Jen Brockman just adopted this simple, powerful filter. It's a pretty radical act, right? To prioritize joy and interest as a way to protect her energy. It's choosing to stop doing the things that led to the burnout in the first place.
Here's another super specific personal boundary. For Susanna, who has muscular dystrophy that affects her breathing, just talking is physically exhausting. So her boundary isn't about being difficult. It's about making her work sustainable. It's an accommodation that, as she says, is actually an upgrade to the quality of her work.
Okay, here's a boundary you can steal and start using immediately. Instead of saying yes right away, this simple little phrase buys you time. It creates a pause, a moment to check in not just with your calendar, but with your actual capacity, your physical, emotional, and energetic bandwidth before you commit to anything. All right, so we're setting boundaries, but what do we do in those moments when we feel that familiar spiral starting? Let's talk about grounding. And I don't mean the Instagram version. I mean the messy, real-life, practical version. This slide shows the difference perfectly. Real-life grounding isn't always pretty. It's Jen's floor time. And yeah, that literally means lying on a dirty floor. It's tears as a way to release stress from your nervous system. It's not about achieving some perfect state of calm. It's about doing what is accessible and real for you in that moment. So here's a concrete plan from Susanna for when you feel that spiral starting. Step 1, name it. Just acknowledge the feeling. Okay, I can feel it starting. Step 2, cancel something. Anything, just one small thing to act as a circuit breaker and interrupt the momentum. And 3, check your capacity. Ask your body, what do you actually need right now? So, we've covered what burnout feels like, the myth that stops us from getting help, and the tools that can really make a difference. Now, let's wrap this up with the most important part of all, the permission you already have. Spiritual guide Enid Rosa says it perfectly, and this is especially for all the caregivers, the healers, the empaths out there. You might think that setting a boundary is selfish, but the alternative is abandoning your own needs. The key thing here is that boundaries are the very thing that make your empathy sustainable in the long run. If you take one thing away today, please let it be this. This is the Post-it note you need for your computer screen, for your mirror, for your mind. Burnout is not a personal failing. You are not broken. You are a human being who's been carrying way too much for way too long. So let's end with this thought. If burnout isn't a problem to be fixed, but a message to be heard, if it's a boundary arriving as a collapse, what is it trying to tell you about your own life? What limit is your body finally asking you to honor?